let's talk about something that's been a growing source of frustration for countless Americans. It's the moment when folks who have spent 40, 50, even 60 years behind the wheel without incident suddenly feel like they're navigating a confusing labyrinth of brand new government mandates. And that, my friends, is the reality playing out in Department of Motor Vehicles offices across the nation right now. 3 significant regulatory updates have just been put into effect. If you happen to be 65 or older, it is absolutely critical you understand these changes before you step foot in that DMV unprepared. We're talking about potential impacts on your license renewal, your ability to drive, and yes, even your personal finances. What truly bothers me is the lack of warning. Most people won't learn about these new stipulations until they're already sitting in that sterile DMV waiting area, feeling lost and overwhelmed. Throughout my career, I've guided countless individuals through complex financial landscapes and governmental red tape. If there's one thing I know for certain, it's that being informed gives you a significant advantage. These aren't minor adjustments to the existing process. We are looking at mandatory vision screenings with far stricter benchmarks, new requirements for physical presence that effectively end mail-in renewals for specific age demographics, and medical certification rules that could catch you completely off guard if you haven't done your homework. So, let's move past the confusion and get straight to the heart of the matter. We'll discuss what's truly happening, how it could affect your freedom and mobility, and, most importantly, the actionable steps you can take right now to prepare. Before we get into the specifics of these 3 new rules, I need to make one thing perfectly clear. Government agencies didn't simply wake up one morning with the goal of making your life more difficult. There's a rationale behind these changes, and grasping that reasoning is just as vital as knowing the rules themselves. You see, over the last half-decade, data compiled by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has pointed to a troubling uptick in accident rates involving older drivers, particularly those aged 75 and above. Now, let me be absolutely clear. I am not suggesting that older individuals are poor drivers. Quite the opposite. Most of you possess a level of experience and defensive driving skill that younger generations, distracted by their phones, could only dream of. However, the statistics indicate that natural age-related factors like diminishing eyesight, reduced reflex speed, and certain health issues are playing a role in specific categories of collisions. In response, lawmakers in various states have begun taking action, and their efforts are the reason we're having this conversation today. The first significant change we need to examine involves the vision screening process, and this one is no joke. Now, I understand your thought process. Vision tests at the DMV have always been a thing. You step up, peer into that machine, call out a few digits, and it's over. But here's the crucial difference now. 23 states have rolled out what they refer to as enhanced vision screening protocols. These are specifically targeted at drivers 65 and older. Gone are the days of the simple eye chart. You're now facing a more thorough evaluation that goes far beyond just visual acuity, which is essentially how sharp your vision is. They're also measuring your peripheral vision, your ability to judge depth and distance, plus something called contrast sensitivity. This last component is a game changer. It assesses your capacity to differentiate objects from their surroundings, particularly in conditions with poor lighting. Picture yourself driving at twilight or during a heavy downpour. If you struggle to see a pedestrian stepping off the sidewalk because their dark clothing blends into a shadowy backdrop, that's a direct result of poor contrast sensitivity. Here's the practical reality for you. These enhanced screenings are considerably more rigorous than what you've encountered previously. While the old benchmark of 20/40 vision in one eye remains the baseline in most places, these new measurements are layered on top of it. If you don't meet the standard in any part of this enhanced screening, you won't be leaving with a renewed license that afternoon. Instead, you'll likely receive what's known as a conditional approval. This gives you a window, typically 30 to 90 days depending on your state, to see a qualified eye doctor, undergo a full examination, and have that physician submit a detailed medical vision report directly to the DMV. Now, this isn't the end of the road, but it certainly means extra steps, additional appointments, and, undoubtedly, more expense for you. This is particularly true since Medicare doesn't always cover vision tests required for licensing purposes, classifying them as administrative rather than medically necessary. So, what does this mean for your planning? If your license is up for renewal within the next 6 months, do not postpone this. Schedule an appointment with an eye doctor immediately. Request a comprehensive examination and specifically ask them to evaluate your peripheral vision and contrast sensitivity. If any issues are detected, it's far better to learn about them now and correct them with glasses or treatment than to discover them under pressure at the DMV counter. I've personally spoken with people who went in for what they thought would be a simple 20-minute renewal, only to leave 2 hours later empty-handed and burdened with paperwork. Let's make sure that doesn't become your story. The second regulatory shift is causing even more difficulty for people, and it centers on the requirement for in-person visits. For a long time, many states provided the convenience of mail-in or online renewal for drivers who met certain criteria. It was simple, quick, and a real time saver for everyone. Well, those convenient days are quickly coming to an end for drivers over 65. 18 states have now made it mandatory for anyone aged 65 or older to appear in person for every single license renewal. No exceptions are made for online or mail-in options, and it becomes even more specific. In 12 of those states, the in-person rule starts at age 70. However, once you reach 75, you're also looking at renewal cycles that shorten significantly from every 8 or 6 years down to every 4 years or even every 2 years. Let's examine what this means for your everyday life. First, consider the time commitment. Anyone who has spent time at the DMV knows it's rarely a quick errand. You're potentially facing 2 to 3 hours between waiting in queues, filling out forms, taking required tests, and having your new photograph taken. For some of you, the nearest DMV office isn't just down the street. You could be driving 30, 40, or even 50 miles to reach it. Now multiply that time and travel by the fact that you'll be doing this every 2 to 4 years instead of every 8. Second, there's the matter of preparation. You can't simply show up anymore. Most states now demand that you bring a collection of identification documents. This includes your current license, verification of residency, such as a recent utility bill or bank statement dated within the last 90 days, your Social Security card, or AW-2 form, and in some instances, even your birth certificate or passport. I've heard countless stories of individuals making that long trek to the DMV only to be sent away because they brought a cell phone bill for proof of residency. But that specific office only accepts paper statements from utility companies or banks. It's incredibly frustrating, but it's the current reality. Now, here's a detail many people overlook about these in-person requirements. They're not just about verifying documents and taking a new photo. DMV staff are now trained to perform what's called an informal assessment of your physical and mental state during your visit. They are observing how you walk from the entrance to the counter. They're noting if you seem confused by simple questions or directions. They're watching to see if you can read and understand the forms you're filling out. If anything raises a concern, they possess the authority to mandate further testing beyond the standard written and vision exams. This could mean taking a road test, even if you haven't had one in 40 years. It might involve a referral to your personal doctor for medical approval. In certain situations, it could mean being required to complete a driver improvement course before your license is issued. I'm sharing this not to frighten you, but to emphasize the importance of being prepared. When you go to the DMV, go ready. Have all your documents organized in a folder. Answer every question clearly and with confidence. Take your time filling out the paperwork. There's no reward for being the fastest. And if you have any mobility challenges, use your cane or walker without hesitation. It's far better for them to see you moving safely with assistance than to see you struggling without it, which could raise unnecessary questions about your overall capability. The third new rule is the one generating the most confusion and, frankly, the greatest level of worry. This is the medical certification requirement. 14 states have now enacted regulations that require drivers above a certain age, typically 70 or 75, to provide medical clearance from their personal physician as part of the renewal process. This isn't just a simple note from your doctor saying you're in good health. We're talking about a specific form created by the state that your doctor must complete. It asks detailed questions about your physical condition, the medications you're taking, any diagnoses that might impact your driving safety, and the doctor's professional judgment regarding your fitness to operate a vehicle. Here's what makes this particularly complex. Your doctor isn't just giving a general thumbs up. They are being asked to evaluate specific medical conditions that the state has flagged as potential driving risks. We're talking about conditions like diabetes, especially if you use insulin and are at risk for low blood sugar episodes. We're discussing cardiovascular problems, particularly if you've experienced a heart attack, stroke, or have uncontrolled high blood pressure. The list also includes seizure disorders, sleep apnea, any signs of dementia or cognitive decline, and any medications that list drowsiness or slowed reaction time as side effects. Your doctor is putting their professional reputation on the line when they sign that state form. Consequently, they aren't going to simply approve it as a favor. If they hold legitimate concerns about your driving safety, they are ethically and legally bound to document those concerns on the paperwork. Naturally, this creates a difficult scenario for many individuals. Perhaps you've managed your diabetes successfully for 2 decades, but you experienced one low blood sugar episode 6 months ago. Your doctor might feel compelled to note that on the form, which could then trigger a requirement for more frequent renewals or impose restrictions on your driving, like no driving at night. Maybe you're taking medication for anxiety or chronic pain, and even though it doesn't impair your driving, it's on the state's list of medications that warrant extra review. Suddenly, what you anticipated being a simple renewal has transformed into a bureaucratic challenge involving extra paperwork, potential DMV hearings, and restrictions you never imagined. Allow me to offer some practical guidance for handling this medical certification requirement. First, schedule a dedicated appointment with your primary care physician specifically to discuss this form. Don't try to address it in the last 5 minutes of your annual physical. You need focused time to go through the questions and address any concerns. Second, be completely open with your doctor about your driving patterns and any incidents you've experienced, even the minor ones. If you've realized you're having difficulty reading street signs after dark, or you've had a few near misses in parking lots, tell them. Your doctor cannot help you stay safe if they don't have the complete picture. Third, if your doctor voices concerns about your driving, don't become defensive. Instead, become curious. Ask them specifically what worries them and what steps you could potentially take to alleviate those concerns. Perhaps it involves adjusting the timing of your medication. Maybe it means having your vision checked again. Possibly it means voluntarily limiting your driving to daylight hours or sticking to roads you know well. There are often solutions available that don't require surrendering your license entirely. Here's another essential point about all 3 of these regulatory changes. They are not applied uniformly across the entire country. We live in a federal system where each individual state establishes its own licensing rules within broad federal parameters. This means the exact details of what I've described will vary greatly depending on your location. The regulations in California are different from those in Florida, which are different from Texas, which are different from New York. Some states have adopted all 3 of these modifications. Some have adopted 1 or 2. A few states haven't adopted any of them yet. However, the overall direction is unmistakable. More and more states are moving in this direction with each passing year. So, what action should you take with all this information? First, you must determine precisely which rules apply in your specific state. Don't rely on advice from a neighbor or something you overheard at a community gathering. Go directly to your state's official DMV website or call their information line and ask specific questions about renewal requirements for people in your age bracket. Request written information if you can, or at minimum, write down the name of the person you spoke with and the date of the conversation. Second, begin your preparations now, not when your license is on the verge of expiring. If you need medical forms, request them well in advance. If you need to book a vision test or a doctor's appointment, do it with plenty of time to spare. Third, consolidate all your necessary documents in one secure location. This includes your identification, proof of residence, medical records, anything you might possibly need. Use a folder or envelope clearly marked for your license renewal. That way, when the time arrives, you won't be frantically searching for your social security card or a current utility bill. Now, I understand that some of you are feeling a sense of irritation right now. You've maintained a safe driving record for decades. You've never caused a serious accident. You keep your car well maintained. You obey traffic laws. And now, the system is requiring extra steps from you simply because of your age. I understand that feeling completely. Your frustration is completely understandable. But I'd like to offer a different perspective. These rules, despite their inconvenience, exist because operating a vehicle carries immense responsibility. You are controlling a multi-ton piece of machinery at significant speeds, in close proximity to other people. The consequences of an error aren't limited to just vehicle damage. They can be life-altering or life-ending for you and for everyone else sharing the road. The objective of these regulations isn't to strip you of your independence. It's to help ensure that every person on the road, including you, is operating as safely as is humanly possible. And here's an uncomfortable truth that often goes unspoken but needs to be acknowledged. For some individuals, these extra screenings and requirements will reveal that it's time to have an honest conversation about driving limitations or exploring alternative transportation options. That isn't a personal failure. That's wisdom. It's prioritizing safety over pride. I've witnessed too many heartbreaking situations where someone who should no longer have been driving caused a crash that injured themselves or innocent people. The subsequent guilt and legal consequences were absolutely devastating. If these new measures help identify potentially dangerous situations before a tragedy occurs, then despite the hassle they cause, they are fulfilling a vital purpose. Your driver's license is a privilege, not an inherent right. And an integral part of maintaining that privilege is accepting the duty to honestly assess your own capability to exercise it safely. These updated DMV regulations are fundamentally changing how that capability is evaluated for drivers aged 65 and older. Staying informed and adequately prepared is your most effective strategy for navigating these changes successfully, allowing you to preserve your independence while ensuring your safety and the safety of everyone else on the road.